Mental health 20 years ago was not a thing. Don't you ever say you're seeing a therapist.
Hi, I'm Aarathi. I'm from EveryChild. And today I have with me Anne Goh, who is a teacher for the last 28 years. Thanks, Anne, for being here. So I just wanted to kind of, have a little conversation with you about your experience as a teacher over the years, just so that we could do a little bit of a reminiscent and reimagining of what school can be and could be. So, Anne, what initially drew you to a career in teaching?
When I was looking for career choices, I knew I did not want to be wearing a dress and going to reporting to an office 9 to 5. So I was looking for something less conventional. So, and I was very into sports. That's where my strengths are. I wasn't interested in any of the courses in the polytechnics that was offered then. So the only other way was to continue into junior college, get to university. And at the point, School of Physical Education was the name, NIE. They offered degree to be a PE teacher. And for me, that was obviously my direction to go because I enjoy sports. I wanted to pursue my career in sports and I wanted to share my joy in sports. And I love interacting with young people. That's why I went into teaching, and specifically I chose physical health education.
Can you tell me a little bit about your school days and what it is that you want to kind of replicate with kids being a teacher?
We all had that one or two favorite teachers that really changed and impacted our lives. For me was Mrs. Nohadi. I hope she gets to watch this. She was my track and field teacher. She made track and field training really fun and it became the main focus. I mean, there were a lot of things going on in my school then. There were gang fights, vandalism. It was very easy to go sideways, but lucky for me, track and field and my teammates, we were on track. We had objectives, we had goals, we had a team, and she always made training fun. I think Mrs. Nohadi knew what was going to happen when I grow up. She never used boys and girls. Later on, she changed. She said, okay, people, do this. All right, people do that. And we will burst out into giggles. And then I realized she was trying to be gender neutral because she might have figured that some of us may not be binary.
So when you became a teacher, you talk about all the things that you guys did as students, which I think in this day and age might be perceived differently in the way the teachers and the schools behave towards students. But what differences did you see in the schools when you joined as a teacher that you thought were surprising, that you appreciated in terms of changes?
So when I was a student, I remember in primary school, we still had peers who retained in primary 5 and primary 6. It was strange for a primary school kid for me to see, oh, it seems like the school uniform, they're bursting out of their school uniform because they've reached puberty, right? I mean, at the point, I did not realize they had leg hair and they are growing really tall and they look awkward and embarrassed. When I was in primary school, I was told, oh, they got retained. They didn't pass primary 5. They didn't pass primary 6. So it became like, oh, don't be like them, you know? In the secondary school, we have the normal acad and normal technical streams. Now, when I became a teacher, I really appreciate the phasing out of these systems. With all its merits, I understand that maybe it was what was needed at that point of time. But to solve every wicked problem, you come up with clumsy solutions, and it generates other problems like social problems or the child's well-being or the way they were perceived among their peers. It wasn't very positive, but we all know that these students are still keen learners given the correct environment, and many of them are very successful today.
So, how did you, as teachers, give them an environment so that they could flourish?
When I had to teach normal acad classes, I find that the first thing that I had to do as a teacher was to tell them that to make them unlearn their own internalized biasness against themselves. Don't believe what the outsiders say that you are. They think that you didn't make it, you failed, you didn't do as well, you're not a studying type, you're not academically inclined. I had to make them see that that's a very skewed perception of what the society wants them to believe in. So we had to make them unlearn that and make them realize that actually everyone has different strengths and different talents. Some of us very musically inclined, may not love numbers, so may not be good in mathematics, but just very strong with music, or very strong in sports, or very strong in, well, nowadays coding, right? Because they love just being alone with the computer. They may not be very good in speaking and presenting. So make them realize their strengths. That's what I spend a lot of time doing that with the kids. So to make them realize that, hey, actually, I'm worthy. My self-esteem is okay. I have confidence because I'm good in something. And some people may not be as good as me. And that's why this is how the world works. It's just that the way our education system, we go by the majority. So unfortunately, some students get left out.
Yeah, so I think my observation is obviously, we've, like you say, you spend all this time working with them so that they unlearn these feelings. And I guess a logical way of me looking at it is, wouldn't it be great if we changed the way they were nourished and nurtured earlier so that they don't have to spend all this time unlearning these feelings and actually just not wasting time, right? So you leave primary school with still confidence intact and you walk into secondary school and you can actually just keep walking further, right? Rather than going 3 steps back.
Yeah, absolutely. 20 years ago, we were not so open to the idea of learning needs and neurodivergence, right? Students that were acting up because they have ADHD or because they have mild autism. In those days, that was not a thing. You're just stupid, or you're dumb. You don't get it. So they were ostracized. They were made to feel less. And that was terrible. But I'm so glad that this conversation that I have students were proud to say they're neurodivergent and they know their coping strategies around it and the boundaries, and they flourish. So
yeah, and this is what you are seeing when you move to international schools, right? Those kinds of access and allowances were given to them, and how children actually flourish when that is offered. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go back to you moving to an international school. I think you were in a local school for X number of years and then you decided to move on. Can you tell me a little bit more about what prompted that move?
Yeah, so I was part of the degree program where we had a 4-year bond. I think the ministry was trying to juggle between a 3-year bond, 4-year bond, 5-year bond. I had a 5-year bond, so I had to pay out my bond. I had to serve in a public school for 5 years. Actually, by the 3rd year, me and my classmate became colleague. We were so burnt out. By the 3rd year, we were screaming, just make this end. Just make this end. We were so burnt out. And so by the 5th year, when I finished my bond, I resigned and I just ran like hell because we were so burnt out.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about what caused that burnout?
We had a very ambitious leader and we are very loyal to him. He was pushing for awards. This is the school I'm teaching, not the school I was schooling. So it was a good neighborhood school. We were pushing to achieve awards and to have a niche in the neighborhood, right? And we were very, very proud of our achievements, but that also means that the staff was very, very taxed, very, very stressed. We wanted to be an icon of excellence. So excellence means perfect. Everything we had to give 120%, so we were doing a lot of stuff outside of teaching. A lot of administrative work, even your CCA, you have to achieve, you got KPIs, your evaluation sheet is 11 pages for work review. So 360-degree evaluation, and you have to ace everything because we were ranked, and then our bonus depends on it. And if you're in a good environment where everyone is competitive, you just have to compete. So we were doing a lot, and I was very burnt out. Yeah.
Did you get the support, like the mental health support at that time? Was there even such a thing?
No. Yeah, good question. Yeah, no, mental health 20 years ago was not a thing. Don't you ever say you're seeing a therapist because people will be like, wow, what's wrong with you? It was very bad. I remember me and my colleague, we were counting, that has to be the 11th miscarriage we heard, from our young female teachers. And we were whispering, oh, there are at least 4 people in this staff room seeing a psychologist because they are just struggling. which nowadays is not a big deal, but at that point of time, mental health was kind of tucked away in a dark corner where you don't talk about, which is really unhealthy actually.
So I know you've been out of the local system for a while and you're in international school, but I know that you still have friends who are in the local system. And has that changed slightly, like the support for teachers? Has that improved? Like the stigma of needing that support?
Well, I'm in this organization where we support each other. Yeah, I would like to think that it has gotten better. I don't know. I can't say for sure.
Okay.
Because I meet so many people along the way. Some still struggle to get past the barrier of getting help for themselves.
Yeah.
Some are open to the idea. Hopefully people who need help get the help they get.
Out of all the professions that we talk about today, I think the teaching profession is one of those that really does need a village, right, to support. Because, we also forget, I was talking to a principal, and she's like, you forget that the teacher is also a parent who also, or a child who is caring for an aging parent, a parent who's got children that has to go to school, who also falls sick, so it's, sometimes I think parents forget that their teachers who are teaching their children are human beings, right? They're not machines, and they need that village support too.
All the identities intersect. So it's a very full plate, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're a woman, even more so because of the social stereotype where the woman looks after the home, looks after her career, looks after the older, looks after the younger, and tries to look after herself when she have that little bit of time.
Yeah, always that bit always falls short, I think. Okay, so and how did obviously, when you first started, like you said, when you first went into teaching, you wanted to create a similar environment for your students, right? Because you had such an amazing teacher who influenced the way you were, the things that you pursued. Did your initial aspirations of teaching change as you moved through your career?
Yeah, so initially, right, as an aspiring PE teacher, I wanted to teach and interact with young people through sports. It also got to do with the way the curriculum is. At the point of time, 20 years ago, there wasn't much you could do besides physical fitness testing and maybe a bit of badminton if you have court space, a bit of soccer if you have field space and enough soccer balls, enough equipment, enough time. If you have enough bibs and sashes to go around to have a decent lesson, and time was also a factor, right? Because some schools timetable PE lessons are 35 minutes. Take away 5 minutes, they change. Take away another 5 minutes, they change back. You left 20, 15 minutes to try to get something going. And then at the end of the day, if your idea of physical health education is to make sure they find joy in physical activity, then the best thing is just let them play and enjoy themselves and have fun. Once you factor time into teaching skills, it takes time away from them playing. A lot of students just want to play. So it's a fine balance. And my aspiration expanded further into opening their minds up into emotional health and mental health. So no longer just physical health. Because in the past 20 years ago, it was all about physical activity. But because when I moved into this international school, the curriculum is IB, International Baccalaureate, and they are more holistic in the sense the curriculum it teaches them how to learn, and then we have to integrate emotional and mental health. So, and I find that is so meaningful when I can take them to a classroom and teach them how it feels like when someone is bullied. It teaches them how it feels like if someone is body shamed through the lens of empathy, right? And then they realize, oh, it's not cool. It's not a slay thing to bully someone. It's wrong. And from there on, you talk about discrimination, racial discrimination, body shaming, and then mental health, how they can support their friend. And that's one other important thing. I've written units where we teach students how to help their friend because I understand mental health in our youth is a big thing now in education, but that's the first port of call when young people feel that they need help. They look to their friends.
Yeah.
So how the unit is quite fun. Is how to be a good friend when your friend is facing feeling overwhelmed, how do you support your friend, and how to highlight that to the authorities in a proper way, in a supported way. We do it in group settings, small group work, in a fun, conducive, safe environment. Yeah, so I find that very, very meaningful. And we teach them about stereotypes, not by telling them it's wrong, but we make them a CEO. They're hiring someone, with a scenario, and then slowly feed them with information. And then firstly, we feed them, for example, this lesson, we feed them with names. Eliminate one name, and you'll find that they realize their implicit biasness. They'll eliminate a name that they don't like. And then you start to question later, why? Why did you eliminate a name? Because you don't know this culture well. So I find that I can expand my teaching to a lot broader and deeper in depth. I find a lot of meaning in that.
That is really interesting. So these are kids of what, 14, 15?
13, 14, 15.
Yeah, and this is
16 and 16.
Yeah. I mean, at the risk of pitting the local school against the international school, I do wish that so my daughter is in a local school and they definitely don't do something like this. I mean, they do different things, but that realization and understanding of how you respect another person and stuff like that, where it's scenario based, I think is quite important.
So that's interesting that you brought it up, because research has proven that students nowadays, they learn best in small groups among themselves, peer learning. No longer is the time where it's the sage on the stage where the teacher says everything and everything is correct, because these days they all have their devices. They're going to fact check and they go, teacher, you are wrong.
Yeah.
They no longer say that. So let them learn and tell me what you learned today.
Yeah.
And as groups, they teach each other.
Yeah.
And then they make friends. They learn social skills, listening actively, open to feedback and giving positive feedback, constructive feedback. All these are social skills that AI can't teach you, and you bring that up to your work in your career in the future and as an adult.
Yeah, and it's difficult to cultivate in very, very large classes as well, right? This research that you talk about, is it for specific age groups or right across the board?
Middle school.
Okay.
Yeah, middle school.
What is middle school? What would middle?
So that would be your primary 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, which is pretty much.
Yeah, Sec 1, Sec 2.
Yeah, which is pretty much the key times that the kids now are actually getting stressed, right? Because
formative years.
Yeah, because they're in majorly big classes. Okay, great, thank you. I think we've talked quite a lot about how important it is that when you teach children, the focus on their well-being, right, is so important, and how you can find different ways of nurturing that. Was the focus when you first started school, obviously, when you first started teaching, obviously it's a different focus because, like you said, it was never something that anybody even thought about. I guess I'm curious to understand how, from a system that didn't really look at things because obviously societal views were different, how has that forced teaching to change?
So in order to create a safe environment, as an individual, as a teacher, right, firstly, classroom expectations, and this is very basic. How can we be respectful and you don't dictate what the classroom expectation is? You want the students to buy into it. You spend some time, hopefully you have time, you spend some time and you come up with the classroom expectations. You ask them, how would you like if someone speaks to you rudely? And the students will say, we don't like to be spoken rudely to. We don't want to be spoken down on. Then you have the expectation. Then you have that as one of the guidelines. Be respectful to everyone. So you have them create their own guidelines in the classroom. What are the norms? How do we behave when we come into Ms. Goh's class, or this teacher's class? This is how we're going to learn science. This is how we're going to learn geography. All right. So once you have that's your guideline, and you can hold people accountable to it. So that's within the 4 walls. And the language we use is very important. Try to use gender neutral pronouns, and this is got to do with unlearning stereotyping. Okay, because it's easy to say, hey guys, stop talking, but guys is a masculine pronoun, right? So you can say, hey class, if you could write down, we have to start the movie screening, and I know you're excited about that. So you use more the neutral gender pronouns. And if any student approaches the teacher and wishes to use a different pronoun, then you can be respectful of that. It's not easy to maintain this fortress of safety if your school leaders, the whole school culture doesn't support it. So you're talking about the whole wider school culture has to be about care, which is, I understand what the new conversation is with the new ministry. We want to move into culture of care, and schools, I know they want to deal with bullies by changing your school culture. And I strongly believe that is the right direction to go. If the school culture is about being caring and being empathetic and making sure that everyone is safe, it's very easy to minimize bullying. So because the students themselves, they know this is wrong, they will help you navigate and police that, because they will call it out without you before it goes viral on videos and all that. So that's also another thing. Also, the way we speak to our youths respectfully, not talking like I am an adult and you are a child, not that way, but respect them as an individual, right? And not like I know best, not being a sage on the stage again. If you know they are going the wrong direction or they've got the answers wrong, well, it is our job as a teacher to question that. You don't say you're wrong. You don't say that. I mean, gone are those days we used to do that. Now you ask, oh, why did you say that? Do you think it'll work out this way? Let them work it out in their heads and realize, oh, there's a mistake I've made. And then it sticks, when they discover their own learning, then, oh, the teacher said it was wrong, I just accept it as wrong. It doesn't ignite curiosity when you don't prod them further. They just accept it and it becomes this passive learning, passive learner style, which is not very healthy, to be honest, because when you want them to always be curious and you want them to always question.
So, on paper, like what you're saying makes sense to me.
So I'm not a teacher, but I have been in classrooms, right, where you are faced with all these children and you are trying to establish a culture, you're trying to establish some kind of respectful communication. And very often there will be that, I don't know, 3 or 4 students who decide, you know what, you're just talking rubbish, I'm not going to listen to you. And 3 or 4 students who decide to disrupt a student is disrupt a class. It's instant, right? It just happens. So I think, again, it's 40 kids in a class and one poor little teacher trying to establish a culture. So while I understand and I hear you, and establishing a culture of care is what we're talking about now, but it is going to take time.
I know what I've described sounds very ideal, and that's also, you nail it, Aarathi. It's smaller class sizes. We must have smaller class sizes. It's difficult to deal when you have 44 young people in a class after recess. They just had ice cream. They have sugar in their system. They're bouncing off the walls. It's just tough. Okay, even with 25, it can be challenging.
Yeah.
So with 30 or 40, it's very hard.
Wow.
So I believe our leaders have the power to make this change, and they've already announced they're increasing the number of teachers intake, and that's fantastic. We've got lots of school buildings out there that are vacant because of population downsizing. A lot of schools merge. I believe we have resources, and what more better solution than to create more jobs, more allied educators, more therapists trained to handle youths, to support our learners. There's a whole industry out there that we can improve employment rates as well.
I mean, you've seen different behaviors being modeled, right, to nurture children, to foster learning environments. Have they stayed the same, or are they worse now? Or are there ways that you think that we could still, I don't know, fall back on, right, from previous teaching that we've forgotten?
So I can answer that question giving you a scenario that happens. Okay, and this is very typical of a class. Let's say, okay, you have a lesson. The students are streaming into your classroom now because they just finished lunch. And then one of your students, the more extroverted, gregarious one, let's say it's a male student, it's a boy, singing his favorite singer's song into the class, very happy to be coming to your subject. And the rest of the class is already sitting down waiting for you. And then somebody in the back of the class, another student of yours, yells at your student, "Stop singing! You who do you think you are? You think you're Sabrina Carpenter? That's so gay." And everyone in class heard that comment. And the whole class burst into laughter. Okay, so as a teacher, what do you do? Right? Option one, all right, everyone, keep quiet, sit down. I need to get on with the lesson. End of story. You've brushed that aside. You've not dealt with that rude comment. Okay, you've not dealt with disrespect. Okay, and you get on with your lesson. You get to finish your lesson objectives. End of the day, that's it. You go home. Option two, hey, it's not nice to call names. Everyone, keep quiet, sit down. Let's start the lesson. You kind of addressed it, but you didn't really address it. You kind of brushed it aside. That's option two. You get on with your lesson and you forget about it after that. Option three, you could talk to the boy who was singing. Oh, you love Sabrina Carpenter as well? Are you going to a concert? Oh my God, I love that song too. So when you say that to the student who was singing coming in, that affirms him. It's okay to sing. Oh my gosh, Aarathi, if any student comes to my class singing, that says a lot.
Yeah.
You know, they enjoy your class, they feel safe, they can be themselves.
Yeah.
Let them sing, right?
Yeah.
So that already affirms it without saying anything. Just saying, oh, I love that song. I'm going to a concert. Are you going? So that's one thing. And then the student will settle down, you know. And then you ask the boy the other student, whoever it may be, why did you say that's so gay? He or she will just say, oh, yeah, because that's all gay. Oh, do you understand what does the word gay mean? And you ask that gently. Don't be sarcastic. Don't come down like you're going to rain down a whole bunch of punitive measures and punishment. Ask them gently and proper. So you're calling in. You're not calling out, hey, that's a gay slur. Just like, hey, what did you use that word? Did you understand what it means? Oh, I watched it on TV before. They say it and it's funny. Oh, okay. What show was that? And you just keep asking. And then the reason about calling in is as they try to answer your question, they're starting to reflect, oh, wait a minute, I've done that. What I've said was very biased or was very prejudiced. I think I've done something wrong. So without you saying you've done something wrong, in a very punitive, top-down kind of approach, you make them reflect. And so I saw it in the show, and when they did that, it was to insult someone. So I've just insulted someone. So they realize, and then they might go back, hopefully, they research what the gay slur meant. So, okay, then you were not scolding the class, and the class is listening, and they start to think. So again, you're opening up their minds, you're probing their curiosity, make them curious. Then they start to realize, when I dismiss my younger sibling by saying such comments, it's actually hurtful. So that is a different way that we could try. So I teach such strategies in the workshop that I ran for QFC, Queer Friendly Cheers. So in the workshop, we look at, calling in is one of the strategies. There are many other ways that you can turn potentially unpleasant situations like this into a teachable moment. Turn it into something, we all learn something from it. And as a teacher, you feel, this is what teaching is about.
Yeah, this is why you walked into the profession, right?
Exactly. And it's not about mob control. It's not about policing what's right and wrong. It's really to keep asking, probing their curiosity, and opening their minds. There's so much out there.
So how do we shift? And this is it, right? Because at the moment, all the other responses have always been punitive. They're always punishment. How do we move away from that? How do we change mindset so that we move away from that?
Hopefully, ideally, we change the culture of the school, right? And then when everyone is killing each other with kindness, then you realize, okay, you have to reflect. I said that because I was taught that way and it worked, but is that the right way? Is that the only way? Do I want to repeat this cycle of negativity, this cycle of punitive, of abuse, or whatever you call it, negativity? And can I intervene and be that change? All these wonderful quotations about being that change that you want to make.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we have to question ourselves, reflect, and realize that we have to make that change.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious. I was not teacher trained. So do you come out of teacher training with like this little toolkit of behavioral management tips and tricks that you can use, or and again, you know, when you practice it during when you're in university and you practice this stuff when you go for internships or teaching placements, it's always easier to put in practice when it's like that kind of scenario. But then when it's reality, it's really hard, right? Because again, we go back to the large class sizes, the lack of time, the KPIs that you're then looking at. But how? I mean, do you have this?
Honestly, when we came out of teacher training, it was like, oh, we were supposed to be pedagogists and experts in this, but it all became mob control. You're just blowing the whistle and controlling the masses. Yes, you're trained, supposed to be trained. But I would say 85%, 80% is really on the job.
Yeah.
Because every day is a different scenario.
Yeah.
Every day, if a student's banging on the table, throwing chairs, they don't tell you how to handle something like that. What do you do? First thing, other students' safety. Okay, make sure everyone else is safe, right? You really, it's on the job training, a lot of it. So the more experienced you are, the wider your repertoire of skills to deal with. And also because you're wiser, you've experienced, oh, maybe this child is acting up because of ADHD or some learning needs that's not met or not supported. And also could be you know the background of this child. Maybe this child is going through difficulties at home, and you know if you meet longer with hardness, with punitive measures, the child will just react worse. So it is really about experience, and you learn on the job. Really.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about, as a teacher, and how AI is affecting the way you teach, the way kids learn.
There's no running away from it. All right, every student and teacher is using AI to help us. That's fine, you know. I mean, when we discovered fire, it's either you get burned or you use it to cook. So we shouldn't be afraid of it. We embrace it as most societies have. But I think a lot of it is really to teach students to have a critical approach to it. You can't buy it, the whole Kool-Aid. You can't buy the whole thing. So in a way, it's important to teach thinking skills for the students first. Teach them to analyze, evaluate, synthesize, transfer prior knowledge, and to really, whatever that suggestion that's generated from the AI, is it true? How can you fact check this? How can you triangulate this? And then how can you use this? All right. And of course, you teach integrity. They have to cite this part. I had AI help. I had help from certain artificial intelligence help me with this part. You teach them integrity, okay? Because they're not cheating anybody. Most importantly, they're cheating themselves if they don't have that sense of integrity to own up. And also teach them to understand how AI was created. I mean, LLMs are created from, can I say this? It's cis het white male. It's quite biased. It doesn't lean towards this is knowledge and data pulling together by largely men. And it doesn't lean into minorities, racial minorities, gender minorities.
Exactly.
So whatever that comes out is very generalized.
Yeah.
And it has prejudice and implicit biasness embedded into it, that you're not going to hear voices of minorities in the answers that come out. So if the students understand that, they realize, hey, actually, that can't be completely accurate. So hopefully they have the wisdom to approach AI in a very smart way that way.
Yeah, at least that's AI today, lah. I mean, who knows how it will develop in
Exactly.
next week and the week after, it changes like that, right?
And I hope that with AI and technology being the main thing right now in classrooms, I hope it doesn't replace experiential learning. Because you can show them a wonderful documentary and interactive platform on how a volcano looks like, but nothing beats climbing a volcano, learning about it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
true.
Being
Absolutely.
very
And feeling
excited.
that
Yes,
heat.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Last question, Anne. You're moving on now. You're trying to move careers. But they say once a teacher, always a teacher. What will you miss most?
I am really afraid that I will miss the students. Ah, wow, the students and the camaraderie with my fellow teachers. Because we all have a common goal, right? We all have a common dream. I will find other ways to. No, there's no way to replace that. To be honest,
Yeah.
I'm gonna miss my students.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure they'll miss you too.
And the interaction and
Yeah.
the fun we have.
Yeah.
I mean, if I no longer have interaction with students, I won't know what is the latest woke language anymore. I wouldn't know being cool means you're aura maxing and all that. So I'm gonna miss that a lot. I have to keep up with that language.
With the trends, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for sitting with me today.
Thank you for having me, Aarathi.
Yeah,
I love the
absolutely.
journey we went on.
Yeah, thank you.
If you find these conversations valuable, please like the video, subscribe and follow us so you may never miss an episode. So grab a copy and let's talk about what matters.